Hey kiddos, so this week we're talking about changes in Russia and the Russian Revolution. So I'm going to go through this reading that I gave you all so that way we can make sure that you have the most important information. So let's go ahead and get started. So in this first paragraph, it's basically talking about the status of Russia at the beginning of World War I. So if we're looking at what is the most important things to notice, we want to point out the fact that Russia's military leaders were weak because we know that leadership is extremely important, especially in the time of war, because you have to have a strong military leader in order to make people want to sign up to be involved in the war as well as to actually win the war and be able to be strategic. Okay, if we're looking at what else is important, so it's saying that not only were the military leaders weak, but the factories could not make enough supplies and weapons to even compete with the other countries. Okay, so that's huge because even if you have enough bodies, you don't have enough weapons to really be able to fight the good fight. Okay, so it's also pretty startling that it says that more than 2 million Russian soldiers were killed. 2 million soldiers are killed. So to me, that tells me that they're just a bunch of sitting ducks. They're just sitting there waiting to be killed. I wouldn't want to be out there fighting, but hey, that's neither here nor there. So their leader at this time is the Russian Tsar Nicholas II. That's important as well because he is the leader of the country. So we need to know that. And what's interesting is that not only was he the leader of the country, but he actually went to the battlefront. So that's huge because not many people would do that, especially people that are that powerful. You basically have the whole country at your hands and he's deciding to go fight. So that makes him a great leader, right? Or does it? I don't know. We're about to find out. Okay, so let's keep looking on. So not only do they not have enough supplies and weapons, but there's a food and fuel shortage. Okay, that is not going to work. So if you're a soldier, you might die because you're not well equipped. You might die because you don't have a weapon to defend yourself. And now it's saying that you don't have enough food to be able to feed yourself. So think about that. Like if you are a soldier and you're having to run around and fight all day and you don't even have enough food to hold your body through that, like this is nuts. So this is why 2 million soldiers died, not only just because of warfare, but because of all the conditions as well. Not to mention the trench foot and the vermin and all those nasty, disgusting things that we talked about last week. So that is huge. Okay, no food plus high death rate, that's a recipe for absolute disaster. You can only tell what's about to happen. Then if you look on the Tsar's wife is talking about how, this is a hooligan movement. Young people are running around. She's basically saying that they're not even dedicated to it. They're just doing this for clout. They just want attention. They are basically like, don't even worry about it. I beg to differ. That's something that they definitely should have been worrying about because you see later on, the Tsar ordered troops to stop the protest by shooting into the crowds if necessary. So he wants to shoot and kill the people. Like there's not enough soldiers already dying. Here's another recipe for disaster. But when he gave these orders, the soldiers actually decided not to do it. And not only did they not shoot into the crowds, but they joined them. There's the tea. Okay? They were like, we're not doing this. Absolutely not. It completely and totally backfired on the Tsar. So, of course, if you have nobody to support you, what's going to happen? You lose power. And that's exactly what happened. He lost power. Okay? So let's keep looking on. So it says that later on down here, the Soviets were local councils made up of workers, peasants, and soldiers who wanted change. So this is important as well. And if I were you, I would be writing these little comments off into the margin so that way you could have them later. And what I would write for this section is the Soviets, they're standing up for the common man. They're regular people. So they're tired. Like it says right up here, they're tired of fighting, starving, and suffering. So they're sick of it. So they're standing up for the common people that aren't super wealthy, that don't have power, They are just like everybody else. They're regular people, and they are sick of the way that the government is running. So they're going to do something about it. So you have the Soviets, and there's this political party called the Bolsheviks. We need to make sure we know about them. They became super powerful because they gained support of the Soviets around the country. So I'm going to highlight that section as well. Okay, the person who was in charge of the Bolsheviks was Lenin. Okay, he's important as well, so let's make sure we highlight him. Lenin is in charge. He is the leader of the Bolsheviks at this time. Remember, the Bolsheviks are standing up for the common people. So if you think about the country, or even think about our country, so most people in our country are regular people. So the regular people are the people that are controlling the Bolsheviks. So that's the masses of the country. This is huge, okay? So let's see what else. So what's huge about the Bolsheviks as well is that they promised an end to the war. Because if you read through the whole passage, it says further up that Russia actually didn't want to leave the war, even though they knew they were losing. So it was a complete lose-lose. They didn't want to leave. The Bolsheviks came into power, and they basically were like, this is ridiculous. Everybody is dying. There's no purpose for us continuing to be in the war. Nah, I'm not going to keep sending people in there to die. We don't have food. We don't have money. We don't have weapons. There's no point in us fighting anymore. Cut it out. So, of course, everybody's super excited, and they're all on board. But not only did they promise an end to the war, but they were giving land to the peasants. Okay? That is huge. So the people that have absolutely nothing are now going to be given land so they can prosper. This is huge. They started from the bottom, not here. Okay? All right. So the Bolsheviks later changed their name. They renamed themselves the Communists. Okay, we talked a little bit about communism with Karl Marx. We know that this is when they want to take the bulk of the money and spread it amongst everybody. We will see later on whether or not Russia upheld that. I've talked to you guys as well about how a lot of countries actually stopped doing that. They never really got through the whole communist cycle, so a lot of governments ended up keeping the money to themselves. But we'll get into that when we get there. Okay, so the communists are butting heads with the temporary government, and a civil war breaks out. Okay, when the civil war breaks out, they have no other choice but to drop out of World War I, and that is exactly what they had to do. But eventually, the communists were able to overthrow the temporary government, and the communists came in charge, and they changed the country's name to the USSR, or the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. Okay? Perfect.